You're listening to the TWOBUCKS podcast, the podcast for outdoor entrepreneurs.
Little by little, I was getting the sense of my time isn't my time.
Just kept feeling this pull to the outdoors and wanting to do something in the outdoor space.
Welcome back to another TWOBUCKS podcast. I'm your host, Brian Krebs, and today I have Wess Brown from Twisted Peep Media on the podcast. And, you know, Wes, I first came across your content on Instagram, and what struck me was, like, the composition and the quality. And I'm like, man, this person must, you know, spend a lot of time with the camera. And then I started getting, you know, starting to do a little bit more research. Obviously, could tell that you have, like, a business around this. And so we've been reaching out, trying to plan this. And then you recently did a kind of like a little bit of a rebranding, a little bit of a focusing exercise that we wanted to wait to get this podcast in afterwards so you could kind of talk about it more fully. And so that's what I thought we'd talk about today. Obviously, we've already covered a little bit in the green room. And so I think it's going to be a really cool podcast for anyone kind of looking to branch out on their own. And so that's why I had you here today.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So we were talking right off the bat before we hit play on kind of different options to outsource some stuff. And it started with using Fiverr, which, if no one knows, I've been aware of Fiverr. I think I had an entrepreneurship engineering class that first shared with me, like, you can go post something on Fiverr. And the thought of it, or the name, is like as little as $5, right? Like, you could post and say, hey, I need a logo for $5. And somebody might say, oh, I'll draw you a logo for $5. But you can, like, there's scale to it. But that's kind of where it started out as, is like matching needs with talents. Is that how you would describe working with it? Because I've never personally used it. So
yeah. So I mean, exactly how you kind of described it is perfect. Where, you know, the first person I worked with, I think it cost me $19.99. I said, I'll do anything you need to as far as digitalizing an image. There's, you know, they had a plethora of things that they did. Sent them exactly the drawing that I wanted digitalized, and I told them exactly what I wanted. They said, yep, I'll get it done. 2 days later, I had it in my inbox, and it was nowhere near what I wanted. Like, if you look at the way I explained it without any insight of what I really, like, the background of why I wanted it, it made total sense why he did it that way. It was just like, we did back and forth 2 more times, and it just wasn't something I wanted. And it was so nice and easy to where, you know, I wasn't mean. I was just like, hey, we're just not meeting at the same spot here. I think I'm going to have to go a different route. And I didn't know it was actually an option, but they totally refunded me. So they put the credit right back onto my account. And I kind of waited a week. It kind of deterred me because I was like, man, no one's going to really know exactly what I wanted. But I was like, no, I'll go back. I found someone else that I actually typed in archery logo design. And there's like 5 of them that popped up. I was like, holy crap. And so I just chose the first one. It was like $30, $29.99. I gave kind of the same description, maybe a little bit deeper, and a little bit more of some examples, right? Like of what I, you know, like, the style, all that. And this woman came back to me and says, you know, I can do that, but I think what you're wanting is this, and it's going to be $80. And I was like, oh, all right. I was kind of in a position where I'm like, okay, like, if it doesn't work out, they'll refund me, right? Like, so I was like, okay. So I paid the $80, and holy crap, they knocked it out of the park. Like, it's exactly what I wanted. It's perfect. And then they give you all the files that you need to alter it. So, like, you know, like I have the logo here. It wasn't this color. It wasn't this shape. So I was able to actually go on Canva and kind of just put my little finishing touches on it. With, you know, I played it on Photoshop, but Canva is so user friendly, and all I needed was some color changes and some font changes, and did it that way. So yeah, it was super seamless. And, you know, it's another tool as well for editing purposes, which, you know, we can get into that if you want to.
Well, yeah, because that was my next question. Is I knew that there's a lot of art on Fiverr. Like, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it started out as like a logo design, like, platform marketplace, where it started with, I thought, mostly digital art.
Right.
But I was going to ask, like, did you see other things you could use Fiverr for while you were using it, like other listings? And now you say editing, like, I assume like photo and video editing?
Yeah, so it was an example that was brought up to me. I have yet to use them for editing. I've looked to them to do that. I just never did it. and mainly it was like it felt disingenuous, didn't feel real. But now the further I'm into my business and the deeper I go, like it's a tool, and it's a very good tool because it seems like anybody could use it, but you got to kind of know what you're talking about because these guys are artists, they're editors, they need the certain jargon, they need certain things. But a friend of mine was doing a video on these elk, and they were ranch elk, so they had tags in their ear. And it wasn't like a hunting scenario or anything like that, but he wanted the tags off the ear, and he knows how to do it, but because he doesn't do that every single day, it was going to take him possibly 3-4 hours to go through 120 frames a second, right? Of trying to get that off of there to make it look just more like it's at Yellowstone or something, right? Like it was just like some stock footage that he did. And he sent it to this guy, and then like it was 24 hours later, it was sent right back to him for like $15, and all of it was gone, and you could use the video as if he took it right out of his camera. It was, so that was pretty cool to understand that, and it's definitely a tool that I'm definitely going to use in the future, especially as I get busier. Because we talked before getting on here, like there's tasks that I don't want to do. There's tasks that I'm not good at. And there's tasks that are better off being contracted out, whether it's to an actual person or like Fiverr, which is obviously an actual person. But my time could be spent better doing other things, making myself money, better in the company, things like that.
Yeah, I would view, like, I'm in the opposite boat, really. I mean, everything I do, I try to like do it myself. Like for some reason, I have a fault where I have a hard time paying someone else to do a task that I could do.
Right.
Whether I know how or not. So like the perfect example with my pickup truck. Like I had a wheel bearing go out. And I'm like, oh man, like the last time this happened, it was $750 at the dealership to get this fixed. And the dealership, it's not like I'm getting the best guy at the dealership all the time. Like sometimes it's like maybe a kid out of high school's first week on the job, and he's, asking someone else how to do it. Maybe he's YouTubing how to do it. And like, I'm going to pay the shop $100 an hour when I could have done that same thing. Like I can look at YouTube, I can ask some questions, you know what I mean? And so like, I start doing my own stuff with digital design. When I started the podcast and everything, I tried to just do everything as cheap as possible. Like start the company. I think I started my Bull Elk Beard Oil company with $300. And the only thing I paid for was a photo that I wanted, right? Because I don't live in the mountains. I can't go take a picture of an elk. I don't have any great pictures. So I was like, I'll buy that photo. Everything else, I like forced myself to learn. And it was painful. Like it took me weeks and months to launch my website, design all the artwork. The product stuff was easy. I had to do that myself anyway. But I'm in that kind of that opposite boat where like it's been a hard time to offload things, but there's stuff that, if things go well, your business grows to the point where like, even if I do know how to do digital design and vector graphics, like the CEO of a big company isn't the one that's in Adobe Creative, right?
Right.
And so you're going to have to, whether it's not just because you can, it's just like you might not have the bandwidth to be doing these activities anymore. Like you said, like my time is better spent getting new business than editing photos when there's 300 of them to edit. And we're doing this, like this brand wants this style. It's it's a very distinguished style. Maybe we're doing like darker mood, higher contrast, whatever it is, or less. Like I can say, hey, here's 5 examples. Can you edit this folder and just apply whatever it is? Like, can you do this, repetitive task that's going to take me 4 hours? Can you just do that? And I'm going to go do
like
for 4 hours.
When it comes to stuff like that, like I still hold a lot of my work very closely and guarded. The same with like if I have to edit somebody else's stuff, like I feel weird about it. Like a company will be like, hey, we have all this footage from before, can you utilize it? And yeah, I can utilize it. It's nice to have like kind of in my back pocket for when I need to fill in some blanks, or maybe my stuff is looking way too repetitive. But like pictures and stuff, like I pride myself on being able to go the exact style that a company wants or a person wants. I'm still at that point of like, when it comes to those intimate details, like I want someone that I can see face to face, someone that I can trust, and someone that I'm contracting to do it because I want them part of my team. Like Fiverr is a tool, right? Just like Adobe Premiere is a tool. Like I might switch to Final Cut. I might switch to, I use DaVinci Resolve. Like those are all tools, and I see Fiverr as the same thing. But like when I see a person to do certain tasks, like actual going and taking photos, and like I just don't want to go online and see that this person is a freelancer. Yeah, sure, they look like they do good work, but are they going to represent my company and me
Right.
the way that I want them to? You know what I mean? So it's like a lot deeper, and I'm sure you understand that too. It's just a lot deeper because my name's on it, and my name means a lot to me. My company means a lot to me. It's my family. It's everything, right? And so like having that depicted properly is probably the most important, and the one thing I worry about the most. So like Fiverr, for me, like the limit is at something like taking a tag off an ear. I just shot 240 frames per second for 30 minutes, and there's a guy with his butt hanging out. I need that out of there, and I don't have the time, nor do I really have the really good know-how to proficiently do that like quickly.
Yeah.
So that's like an easy, like, okay, here's $50. Please get this out of here, bring it back, and I'll continue the editing process. Because I'm like going to like my origins, like I didn't go to school for this. I went for marketing and advertising, criminal justice, sports management, and psychology at one point. So like this is all what I've done is for the last 15 years is just learn on the fly. And luckily I'm at a point now over the last 5 years that things are actually looking like I know what I'm doing.
Well, I'll get there in about 10 years then. So, so you said you didn't go to school for this. You picked it up on the side. So I assume you started like you had a day job and you started doing this on the side. Is that how you like slowly got into it, or did you make a hard jump?
No, it's been super slow. So I joined the military in late 2006. And before that, I would help photograph and film, like self-film hunts and film other people hunting here in Michigan for a TV show that was called Simply Outdoors. It was a local little TV show. It's not up anymore. And it was actually my brother-in-law and his family at the time that ran it. And it was just something cool, right? Like I was the kid that watched the Buckmasters, grew up doing that. And I was like, oh yeah, awesome. Like I'll do this. And for some reason, it was just so much fun, right? It made hunting harder. Like I was actually able to make like these cool little clips, and God, looking at my work back then and now is drastically different, but it lit like a passion that I didn't know was going to be this intricate or this important in my life at that time. So joined the military. I was a canine handler most of the time, deployed a few times, did a lot of great stuff. And on the side, well, what happened was in 2011, I was in Germany. I got a divorce, and I was like, well, I'm single now. I got to go do something. So I had a little bit of money. I bought a camera because at the time I kind of put it all in the past because I couldn't hunt as much as I wanted to. And when I did, I didn't have time to film, let alone even the freaking money to do it. Right. So, so I was in Germany and I'm single, and I got a camera, and there's these photography groups with all these women. And I was like, done. So I went there and started talking with women, and really it was a way to, like, you know, for the lack of better words, to get laid. I mean, that's what I was trying to do. I was a 20-something-year-old, you know, and I had a camera. But what I was doing is I was also creating these images that I didn't know were that good. Like I would edit them. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll post it on Facebook or something like that. And then all of a sudden people were like, hey, having a family thing, can you come take photos? I'm like, sure, take photos. You know, I barely know what a freaking f-stop was. And, you know, so I was like, okay, yeah. So I did that. And it just started getting bigger and bigger, just side stuff, right? Just like $100 here, 200 here. And then I got back from my last deployment, moved to Virginia, and that's when it really kicked off to where I bought a better camera, upgraded it, and I had a camcorder, started videoing my hunts again because I had more time. And I had like a small woodworking business, but really it was like a catalyst so that I could take pictures of that. And yeah, and then from there I just started creating my connections. I got medically retired in 2017, and with that free time of mine, I reconnected with a lot more of the outfitters that I was a part of, and became a hunting guide. I did it out west. I did it down in Texas. I did it up here in Michigan for high fence ranches, low budget places. And long story short, throughout all that, I was utilizing my skills as a photographer and then honing my skills as a videographer. And throughout that, I'm literally just teaching myself how to edit, because I'm trying to put together something for these outfitters just to be like, hey, you know, here's something for social media, right? Like, and all the while I'm also going to college, and you know, and then I was the events and marketing manager for Cabela's in Virginia. So anyway, I was doing all that, guiding, videoing, all that, and all of a sudden I was just like, holy crap, I get to do all this stuff while also doing a passion that I love, which is media work. And I just started honing in on that. And when I started kind of paying more attention to it, one of the kind of the biggest breaks of my career, I guess, would be the being a full-time media producer for Redline bow hunting. And so that's what it kind of culminated to. And that was the big jump I made. I was like, okay, here we go. Like, we're going all in on it. And when I did that, I also still had my Twisted Pete Media, just wasn't that serious. And now that I think over the last 2 or 3 years, it's like, okay, this is the rest of my life. Like, I will be doing media for the rest of my life. This is my path. And here we are.
So not to get too much into like the Redline side of it, but just like for someone out there that's like, man, that sounds awesome. Like, I want to do that. I want to get to a point like Wes talks about where I have, you have a lot of irons in the fire to be.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, well, and they might be looking at themselves like maybe they're 18, they're getting out of college or high school, and they're like, I don't think college is for me. I like that. Like, why would I go to school for 4 years and pay $100,000 to learn how to shoot a camera? Why don't I just go buy a camera? Or just whatever reason someone has, but like, I want to do it, but I'm not sure the best way to start. And what I was going to ask you is like, do you feel like it's something where you need to like just go do it on your own for a while and learn and like just grind it out, maybe get a different job that you like, isn't the long-term thing. Everyone's got to put food on the table, or right. Is there an opportunity to like go get jobs at different places like Redline, or I just saw Midwest Whitetail posted their annual internship application. Like, would it work to come in and be like, hey, I'm like super new. I know I'm not the best. I can help out. I can drive a tractor, or I can learn a camera. Like, I'll do whatever you need me to do, but this is just something I'm really excited about. And then use that as an opportunity to just really build your skills, hone your craft, and probably have like better mentors, someone like around that's going to be like, hey, no, don't do it that way. Like, you know what I mean? So it just shortens that learning curve. Or is that just like a barrier to entry? Like, they're not going to hire you. Like, just being frank, there's a lot of people that know how to run a camera. If you don't, they're not going to hire you.
I think what got me my job, was one, the connections I've had in the industry, mainly because I put myself out there, right? Like, I went out and I